Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Brotagonists. I am your bro host, Mason.
And I'm your other bro host, Carter.
And this is our first episode ever. So we just thought we'd take some time to introduce ourselves and that you get to know us. I'm Mason. I'm podcasting to you today from Denver, Colorado. I'm currently a dental student, soon to become a dentist. I love fantasy novels. I love sci-fi. I definitely lean more fantasy. My favorite book series is the Stormlight Archive. I'm excited to build this new community and talk about all of our favorite books on here.
That's awesome. I am Carter McEntee, and I'm podcasting to you from Newport, Oregon. I'm right on the coast. I'm right in the middle of the Oregon coast. I am a general manager of a few restaurants, a few family restaurants, and I, just like Mason, love to read, love nerdy stuff. We needed an outlet for it, so we decided to finally start our long talked about podcast. And so you got to bear with us as we get started here, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, and what we're really trying to do here is build a community where people can come and talk about and review some of the fun fantasy and sci-fi novels that they've been reading. And we're just really wanting to have anyone be welcome to listen in and to have fun with some of the games that we're going to be playing, the books and the movies we're going to be reviewing. And just to be a part of it should be really fun along the way.
Mason, what are you currently reading right now?
Glad you asked, Carter. I'm currently reading The Hunger of the Gods.
Nice.
It's book 2 of the Bloodsworn trilogy. Book 1 was very good, but book 2 has kind of already surpassed that for me with it ramping up the intensity and everything that's going on. It's a Viking fantasy, big emphasis on the Viking. I definitely say it's more Viking than fantasy. It's very good, action-packed, good characters, a lot of revenge. Real big heavy on the revenge, but it's entertaining. I've enjoyed it, and I would honestly I'd already recommend it to anyone to read if they're into any sort of fantasy or Viking type things. What are you reading?
Heavy on the Viking for sure, but as you get further into that series, definitely a lot of fantasy going on. So I love that series. I think it's one of my favorite of all time, maybe top 5 series. I am currently reading a book called The Lions of Al Rusan. And I know I recommended this book to you and our buddy Jordan to read this year. I'm just getting into it. I'm like a third of the way in. The very first few chapters are very dense with names of towns and names of people in a language that we're not exactly familiar with. So it's a lot to remember. But once you really dive in the first few hours, the story becomes really beautiful and the prose is beautiful. I'm really enjoying it so far. And I know I recommended it to you guys before even finishing it myself. So if you guys don't like it, I'm sorry, but I've heard from a couple people that it was a great book. So I'm in the middle of that one. I'm very excited about it. And I'm not sure if it's fantasy yet. It's like an alternate version of Spain, but we'll see. I'll know more about it eventually, and we'll do an episode about it. That's what we're reading right now, everyone that's listening. We're probably five followers to begin our first episode, but this next segment we're really excited about. This is one that we want to do often when Mason and I have a book that we've both read so that we can rate it and have a Protagonist's official rating. And so this segment is brought to you by Very Good Industries, and it's called Book Battle. It's essentially exactly what it sounds like. It's Mason's read the book. I've read the book. We've each rated it, and we're going to try to convince one another that it's worse or better than it is, depending on what we ranked it, and try to come up with an official protagonist rating for our audience.
And just so a little background info on how we rank books. We rank our books on a scale of 1 to 10 instead of 0 to 5 stars on like Goodreads or something. I feel like out of 10, it makes it really accurate to how good it is. And how I personally rank my books is 7 and above is I'd recommend it to the right person. 8 and above is I'd recommend it to anyone. I would reread it. It was very enjoyable. 9 and above, we're talking like all-time favorite books ever. Very few books for me get above a 9 out of 10. And I tend to rate books a little bit more severely than Carter. Carter's a nicer critic than I am.
But right back to the book battle. This first book that we're bringing to you is a perfect entry point to fantasy if you've never gotten into it. It's a standalone. It's by the legendary Stephen King, and we think this is a great entry point because it's a portal fantasy, kind of like Narnia, where you go through a portal and you're in a new world, fantasy world. You start on on planet Earth, and this is a really good fantasy that Stephen King wrote during COVID. He's usually known for his thrillers and scary books, as we all know, but this is a unique one.
It was definitely entertaining. It had some fun characters. Has a really great dog named Radar in it.
Sweet name. That's a sweet name.
And it was really entertaining. The book is Fairy Tale. Really good, really easy to find. It should be at any local Barnes and Nobles. It's on Audible. I'm sure smaller bookshops also have it too, because Stephen King is such a popular, prolific writer. Really excellent book. My overall ranking for it was much lower than Carter's, so we'll see how this conversation goes. Let me read the very short version of the plot for this book. It's a 17-year-old named Charlie Reed inherits keys to a hidden parallel world called Empress that is in a shed portal where he must battle evil forces, save a deposed princess, and confront a monstrous ruler, all to save his beloved dog Radar and potentially save both worlds.
And if you're confused what a shed portal is, it's basically a
It's just
shed built over a portal in the ground. So it's kind of a normal portal-ish, but there's a shed built over it. So continues.
my ranking for it was a 7 out of 10.
A 7 out of 10. Okay. So you'd recommend it to the right person. That's fair
Yeah.
enough.
So
You know,
just to,
when we, yes.
I'll let you share your ranking first,
Yeah, okay.
and then I'll tell you. Then I'll.
You got it. This was one of the first books I read when we started ranking books, Mason and I, a few years ago. And just so you know, Mason and I have been like best friends for a long time. For, I don't know, let's see, we met 2014.
14.
We met 2014 in college, in Hawaii. And then we reconnected 2017, getting into 2018, and we've been best friends ever since. We've been roommates, and anyway, and we didn't really figure out that we liked to read, sci-fi fantasy. We didn't realize that about each other until a little later on. Since then, it's been a lot of fun to talk about books together. But back to the point, my rating for Fairy Tale was an 8.8 because I more rank it by how much I enjoyed the book. And I don't think I'd ever rate a book a 10. I'm still searching for a 10. That's the goal of life, right? Always be searching for a better book. But 0.8 is my rating. Mason has a 7. This is a big spread for us. It's not normal. So we're going to try to get each other somewhere in the middle.
So I just gotta say this. Maybe I was a little harsh for it. It was something that's hard to compare when rating books, especially in fantasy, as most fantasies are series. And so when you have so many books that build on each other, and it's like book 4 and it was epic and great, it seems so much better and bigger because of the other books that led up to it. Where a standalone, it's harder to deliver there. So maybe I am being a little harsh, but things I really liked about the book are it's just like I could totally just see like a 17-year-old just like, yeah, I'm gonna go into this portal because that's gonna save my dog. Like that's like such like a young, naive kid thing to do, is just like saving this dog and prolonging its life is the most pure of intentions, and you don't even think like there's a lot of life to live. You're gonna have a lot of pets. You don't really need to go into an entire other world or dimension to save a dog, But I really love that it's realistic. It's something like a 17-year-old kid would do for their pet. And, I love dogs, so I'm fully supportive of the mission. I did think that it was entertaining. I do think that the characters were okay. I don't think there was any fantastic characters that I was like, my heart bleeds for Charlie Reed or anything like that. The curse on the land and the world was pretty cool to see in this world, like where the curse is like infecting the land and the people is like all these people are becoming like demented. They're losing eyes and ears and mouths and stuff like that, and like their senses. The bad guys seem scary. There's a good intensity to it. All that being said, all those good things, I think it for me was I didn't have like a strong connection to any characters. I wasn't ever daydreaming about, oh, I can't wait to get home and read the book. I can't wait to listen to it in the car. I can't wait to do this. It was almost like I had to make myself do it. I just felt like there wasn't anything compelling me to really read other than it was good passive entertainment. But it was good. So I rated it a 7 where, yeah, if someone's interested in starting fantasy, yeah, I'd recommend it to them. But I wouldn't be like, to get you into fantasy, I'm going to give you fairy tale. That's just, no.
Okay. Well, I would give it to somebody because a lot of fantasy, you get thrown into a world, you have nothing, you're trying to catch up. You don't know the names of these people, these places, they're just foreign, you know what I mean? And this one, you start on Earth and, you fall in love with this cranky old man and his dog, and then everything he ends up going through is kind of tied back to his own life. And Goodreads, I always like to look at the ranking of Goodreads. 330,000 people have ranked this book on Goodreads. And I'm sorry to tell you, Mason, it's closer to my ranking. So maybe mine's not as crazy, but the ranking was a 4.1 on Goodreads. So you double that, that's an 8.2. Okay. So Goodreads has it at 330,000 people have it at 8.2. I have 8.8. You have a 7. I think you need to be coming up a little bit, and I do agree that I should come down. So I'm going to initially move my number down to the Goodreads number, an 8.2, because looking back at it, I've read so many amazing books and my scale has broadened since then. So I think what I would counter with is an 8.2, agree with the masses, and I'm curious to see what you're going to counter with here.
Well, just a counterpoint to that. I don't know the exact number on the top of my head, and my Goodreads isn't open, but these are also the same people that would rank Fourth Wing in nearly a 5-star, you know?
Yes, you're right.
That's
All right.
that
All right.
that's the amazing thing about the world and America is you have the right to your opinion and I have the right to be right. I think I should come up a little bit. I don't think I could bring it above 8 though, just because I cannot envision myself saying like anyone should be able to come in and read this book and enjoy it.
But you can come up to an 8. That's a whole point. And you know what? If I don't have to come down a whole point from an 8 point to a 7.8, I'm happy compromising with you at an 8.
Let me start at a 7.8. Even though it is a solid standalone, the other standalone fantasy novels that I would put in the 8 category, I feel greatly surpass Fairy Tale. Or it's just Sword of Kaigen, for an example, is what I'd give a solid somewhere in the 8 range for a standalone fantasy novel where I could give it to anyone and they'd have a good appreciation for it, be thoroughly entertained. I feel like this one is more like that, like a movie that most people enjoy, but it's no one's favorite, you know?
Okay. It's a good book, guys. You should read it. Maybe not as much as Mason
So-
thinks that I think you should.
What about a 7.9?
So maybe 7.9. Let's see.
We're gonna be ranking
So
a
you'd
lot
be
of these
coming up.
books.
You'd be coming up 0.9. I'd be coming down 0.9. I can be at a 7.9.
Okay.
The problem is, I just think that I just think the boy and his dog is beautifully written, you know, and how it's like it doesn't start to be his dog, but he kind of falls in love with the dog and becomes his companion.
Radar is the best part of the book. I agree.
Like Mason said, the goal, kind of the plot is Charlie takes the dog through the portal to a place where Mr. Bowditch had told him that Radar could be young again because Radar was starting to have health issues and not be able to walk that well. And just heartwarming when, you know, you can see an old dog be young again. I don't think that's too big of a spoiler. Very, very heartwarming book, and you deal with a lot of emotions, I thought, and there's good comedic breaks, you know what I mean? 7.9 is fine.
One last counter argument. I thought the way that they defeated the main bad guy was way too easy. Just unrealistic.
Yes,
and we're gonna be
it was
rating a lot
reminiscent
these
of like
books.
it was the end, like defeating the bad guy was reminiscent of a Disney film.
Yeah. And we're going to be rating a lot of these books. If we start at an 8 with this book, I think it's going to be hard to rank others that, you know.
I agree with you. You got me to 7.9. And I think that's going to be the official Protagonist rating for Fairy Tale by Stephen King. 7.9.
We do highly recommend to read it. It is a little thick, as you can see, and we get a 7.9, which is significantly above average, and it is a good book for you to read.
Agreed. Would you like to introduce our next segment?
Yes. So this is another one that we think would be fun to do. Mythic matchups, where we have some sort of battle or a debate taking place between two fantasy characters or sci-fi characters from opposite worlds. Today, for mythic matchups, we are going to debate who would win in a fight. Saphira from the Inheritance Cycle, which is the Aragon series. For those that don't know, that's the name of the Inheritance Cycle.
I'm
Or
missing Aragon, but I have these two right here.
yeah, the blue dragon from the Inheritance Cycle in the Aragon books. Or Drogon from Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire. And for the sakes of today's mythic matchup, I am siding with Saphira, and Carter will be siding with Drogon.
Yeah. So there are a couple ways you can look at this. Drogon and Saphira both have riders. All right. Drogon has Khaleesi, Daenerys Targaryen, icon, but she's not really magical. Whereas Saphira has a rider, Aragon, and he ends up being able to use magic with Saphira. So we'll kind of maybe debate both sides of this, but I'd like to start off by saying Drogon would eat Saphira for breakfast. He is huge. All he has to do is come in, get a good grapple, and just yank her out of the sky.
I would say that unless it's a surprise attack, Drogon doesn't have a prayer. And hear me out. There's like a book and a half dedicated to Saphira training with another dragon that's seen battle to learn how to fight other dragons. So not only does she have magic with her rider, I think with riders, it's no question Saphira, but without her rider, she still knows how to fight other dragons and be in war, where Drogon is more animal than he is like being a person. And he is huge, he is massive and furious, but Saphira I think, is more intelligent. She has training.
You're right. Saphira wins hands down with Aragon as her rider. She has the battle, she's battle trained. Aragon has magic with her. But the question here is Drogon versus Saphira. I don't think they have riders right now. It's not Drogon and Khaleesi versus Saphira and Aragon. This is Drogon versus Saphira. Drogon is a menace. Drogon, I don't even think he's just double or triple the size. I think he's like 10 times the size, at least. And maybe that's just speculation, but from what I see and hear from the books and what I see on screen from Drogon, that's what it seems like to me. You know what else comes to mind is Drogon's fire melts stone and metal. I've never seen Saphira do something like that. Melt the Iron Throne, forge steel, even Valyrian steel, melts it like it's nothing. Explosive power.
So let me ask you a question. Who would win in a fight, me or Floyd Mayweather?
Mayweather.
I'm probably 100 pounds heavier than Floyd Mayweather. I'd venture to guess that I could outlift Floyd Mayweather in any lift. But just because I'm bigger and potentially, I actually have no idea what his lifts are, but most likely stronger because I'm that much bigger, he can still smoke me because he actually knows how to fight and he knows what to do. He's faster than me. I'm a fat, old, out of shape dentist, and he's a boxer, and
Floyd would take you down.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's like Saphira knows how to fight. She's smaller, she's agile, and Drogon is growing up with just two smaller brothers that he doesn't fight with, and all he does is like hunt sheep. All I do is hunt McDonald's. I think knowing how to fight is a bigger thing. And if Drogon somehow got a hold of Saphira by the neck or something, she's not getting out. She's done. She's toast. But if they're both like lined up, ready for a fight, she knows what to do. I think she's winning. Maybe I'm just a feminist.
You just like Aragon better than Game of Thrones.
That's not true. I love, at least, I'm sorry, our audience, I've not actually read A Song of Ice and Fire. I would like to, but I really want it to be done.
I'm sorry,
before
our
I start.
audience.
But so if you're going off of the TV series, I do love a Game of Thrones other than last half of season 8.
The thing is, though, Drogon even has range on Saphira with his fire. It melts metal. I think that even if she kind of gets in like a wound on him, like say she like dive bombs him from above or like bites his wing or something, he might struggle. All he has to do is turn his head to wherever she's at and blast her out of the sky.
But aren't dragons impervious to other dragon fire?
I don't know. Hey, that depends on what world you're in, but usually, I guess. But they're always
I don't remember
blasting each other with fire.
Cycle.
I think what it is that
or Thorn or Glader ever feeling like they could beat another dragon with fire.
I think what it is in Inheritance Cycle is they're warded by their riders against that stuff. So again, magic coming into play. But dragons are inherently magical, right?
But I also think in the Song of Ice and Fire, that's like the whole thing is that Targaryens don't burn because they're dragons. And so I don't think the dragons are hurt by fire in that world really either.
All right. All I know, have you seen House of the Dragon?
I have, yes.
All right. It'd be like Vagar.
Like I said, surprise attack, Drogon could win, but I think if they're in the dragon pit ready for a fight.
And you know what? This is a battle, right? So like we didn't set the stage. So we don't really know what the parameters are. Are they flying? Are they in a dragon pit? This is something to think about for more mythic matchups to come. But you can vote on our Instagram story on who you think would win in a fight, Drogon or Saphira, and that'll have to settle it.
I will be honest, though. I did look up the size difference. Drogon is 6 times larger than Saphira.
6 times larger. Boy, yes. So, but they'll both, yeah, go vote.
I think we can both agree, though, with writers.
I agree with that. And I think maybe without writers, to put a number on it, it could be 50-50 depending on strategy. Dragon Pit just like facing each other, I think Drogon's got her. I think Drogon's got her.
In the sky, Saphira's got him. But
she might, surgical attacks. I don't know. I think Sky is, it's iffy, but we'll hear from you. Next, we have kind of a game, and it's another segment that we will be going with occasionally, every couple episodes or so. Mason has prepared blind rankings for me, and I have no idea what they are. So let's hear it.
So how blind rankings work is I'm going to give Carter a topic. I'm going to list 5 items or people from this topic in no particular order, and he has to rank them 1 to 5 blindly.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
And I chose the topic epic fictional swords.
That's great. All right. And there's 5? Is that right?
There's 5.
All right.
I feel like I really need to have my sword here with me for this.
Mason has a sword collection, everybody.
Audience, give me a second, please.
He's got some good swords, I think, mostly from Lord of the Rings, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not sure if from anywhere else. Do you have a sword from anywhere else? We'll see. We will see.
I do have some lightsabers, and I have like a couple of like homemade ones. So these are 2 of my Lord of the Rings swords. You can see here. I love swords, and so this is a fun topic for me to go.
So it looks like you had Aragorn's sword right there.
I did have Aragorn's sword, and I have Thorin's sword.
Thorin's sword, yeah. Don't you have more?
Okay. I do have, like, they're not, like, from anything, but I do have, like, 5 or 6 more swords.
Some generic medieval knight swords?
Not, like, I have, like, one that's, like, a short Roman sword that my uncle made for me, and, like, the handle's made out of, like, deer antler. It's pretty cool.
All right.
Anyways,
very cool.
I'm
ready for the blind rankings.
Epic fantasy swords in no particular order.
You should just put that sword behind your head and, like, flex. I was joking.
This sword is actually number 1 on the list. How would you rank Narsil or Anduril, as it is reforged for Aragorn, from The Lord of the Rings?
Blind ranking. See, I am bad. I will admit my lack of proficiency in Middle-earth lore and admit I don't know if it exactly has magical powers, but I know that it was forged by the elves and has some kind of innate power. Is that right?
Yeah, I have read all the Lord of the Rings. I've read the Silmarillion, but I do not know all the innate powers of this sword. Yeah. All I do know is with it, Aragorn is able to summon an army of the dead. It gives him the right to rule Gondor, and it's a beautiful sword. It is a beautiful sword.
And it is one of the most recognizable and iconic swords of all fantasy, especially since they made such amazing movies from the books. But I know you're going to put in some swords that actually have crazy magical powers. So as far as a sword, what was the prompt? Just the best sword?
Epic fantasy swords.
Epic fantasy swords. So basically epicness and legendariness. I'm going to put it at number 2.
I think that's a good spot.
Okay. Nice.
I am curious where you're going to put this next one. The Sword of Shannara.
The Sword of Shannara. All right. I didn't,
so
I read this book last year.
It's from the book, The Sword of Shannara.
I read this book last year off of a recommendation from Mason. It's the first. Is it the first one? Just the Sword of
Yes,
Shannara.
there is a prequel. Like the Terry Brooks is the author. He's written probably like 30 books in this Shannara world. There's like the main trilogy and a prequel. That's what I've read. And the Sword of Shannara is the first book, and there's a magical sword that kind of interesting about it is you don't actually use it like a sword. Magic is to show someone their true self and to have them be able to live with that. And that's what gives them.
Yeah. I liked the book. Really very simple, reminiscent of The Hobbit a little bit, Lord of the Rings. That sword, I don't think its powers are super cool. I'm going to put it at 5. All
right. So the next one is the Stormlight Archives, Nightblood.
I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, it's like a 50-50 chance that you've read Stormlight Archive, maybe more. So Nightblood, and it's in Warbreaker, which is in the Cosmere. Nightblood is epic. Nightblood has crazy powers. It basically sucks investiture from its user or from whoever it's stabbed into. And once it uses all your life force, basically you wither away and die. But you got to make sure that you have enough power to hold it. I already put Aragorn's sword at 2. I'm trying to think of other swords you're going to put in here. I'm going to put Nightblood at 3 because I know you're going to throw a surprise at me. And I need to have a spot ready for it. Unless
3,
that was the one.
Me.
My gosh, I know. I'm kind of regretting it already, but I put it there. Number 3.
He talks to you. Nightblood talks to you.
Nightblood talks to you. He has a lot of dialogue. Nightblood talks to you, and he has dialogue in multiple books. So he might be there might be more written content on Nightblood than any other sword ever written about, ever. So it makes me want to put it at 1, but I'm going to put it at 3 because I'm going to wait for your curveball.
Right. Next is the Ebony Blade.
From Marvel? 4.
All right.
I don't have much to say about the Ebony Blade.
I don't really either. I just said it looks cool.
It does. Didn't they have Didn't they have Kit Harington about to play?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Black Knight or whatever. And I think he'll be in one of the future projects that's Eternals, but not Eternals.
Well, that's exciting.
So this last one is going to be your number 1, no matter what.
Boy, I'm stuck with you never wait till the last unless it's a trick.
I think you'll be happy with which one it is. I think this one would be my number 1. Is Kalendor from The Wheel of Time.
Totally. Kalendor's number 1. I agree with that 100%. That sword, there's a lot of written content about that sword too in The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time, by the way, takes a long time to get through for slower readers like me. It was awesome. But Kalendor number 1. So what do we got? We got Kalendor at number 1. We've got Narsil at number 2. Number 3, we put Nightblood. Number 4, we have Ebony Blade. And number 5, the Sword of Shannara. Okay, well, that's great. Blind rankings.
Awesome. All right, going to our next segment that I'll let Carter start because he said he did some research and has some thoughts for me today. We're doing a Watchtower review. So this is content you can watch, whether it's a movie, a TV series, something like that. Whereas some of these might come with a ranking. Some of them are just debates. Today, what I wanted to talk about was Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And the topic is, it gets way more hate than it deserves.
So that's the prompt. Phantom Menace gets way more hate than it deserves. And Mason and I agree on this. We do agree on this. We've watched this movie a lot. I just watched it a few days ago to refresh because when we were outlining this episode, and Mason had the idea of doing Phantom Menace episode 1 of Star Wars for our episode 1 of the Brotagonists, I thought it was a good idea. So the Phantom Menace does get too much hate. I was doing some voice notes during the movie just to point out some things that I see why people might feel opposite, like they might not enjoy this or feel like there might be too many plot holes, which a lot of them I feel like can be explained through the Force. But one thing right off the bat, 15 minutes into the movie, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are in the Gungan city underwater. And as soon as we run into Jar Jar Binks in the woods on Naboo, he's just speaking this crazy language that sounds like 5-year-old is trying to speak to you. And I want to know how this broken English became their language. And why it's not more alien or why they're speaking this half English funny language. It just seems kind of like episode 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars was more serious with its moment, with its jokes. Like Han Solo was really funny and Chewbacca, but then all of a sudden you have Jar Jar Binks who's speaking like this broken English, and it just seems a little bit elementary for Star Wars. But what do you think?
I hear you out. Jar Jar Binks is a huge lynch point for a lot of people in Star Wars. Is they think he's annoying or not funny or whatever, and I agree. As an adult watching Star Wars, I'm like, can we just get this guy out of here? He just ruins everything, but he becomes important to the plot later because he's an idiot.
Yeah, right.
But as a kid watching The Phantom Menace, I remember and thinking Jar Jar Binks was funny. I remember thinking that I liked Jar Jar Binks when I was a 5-year-old kid in the movie theaters. And I think that's why they put a character like him in there, because there was all these adults that grew up with Star Wars. I think everyone from the age 40 and up right now grew up with Star Wars and loved it. And of course, when the new one comes out, they're going to be taking their young kids to these movies, and they needed to add something in there for the kids.
That's totally fair. I get that. The other thing, they're leaving the Gungan city, and this was always my favorite part of the movie as a kid and all growing up until I watched it this week, where they're going through the center of the earth, which is apparently made up of water and caves. So they're going through this huge, massive fish monster, starts following them. It's going to eat them. And then another sea monster comes up behind it and just saves them at the last second and eats that fish, which is awesome. Okay, there's always a bigger fish, as Qui-Gon Jinn says. There's always a bigger fish. But then 30 seconds later, it seems like another fish monster is following the same ship on their journey to the city. And then another big fish monster starts following the ship. And then another bigger fish eats that fish. And I always thought it was one fish eating another fish, but it's actually two separate occasions of two bigger fish eating a smaller fish, if that makes sense. And so I was like, what? That just happened. They just had that happen. I mean, it was great as a kid, but why? Twice in a row?
Yeah, I to be honest, as an adult, I'm like, yeah, we could just cut out like half of this. But
I love it though. I love that as a kid. And it does seem like episode 1 is trying to get a younger fan base into Star Wars again, and that definitely worked for me.
Do you have any other plot points you want to bring up? Because I was just going to bring up some general things that people don't like about.
I do have a couple more, but I need your help to like explain them to me or add some context, because I know less lore about Star Wars than you do, I feel like. Okay, I watched Clone Wars because you told me to, and it was great. Clone Wars was good. Okay, the droid army comes down to Naboo and just walks through the front gates of Princess Amidala's palace and just like holds them hostage. Where is Naboo's military? Nowhere to be seen. She has like her bodyguards, but do they just rely on the Senate to keep the peace?
Yeah. So there's no armies. There's not supposed to be any armies on any planet. The Gungans kind of have one, but they're underwater. They're not really part of the whole Senate thing going on in the galaxy. And I think that might be part of the agreement that they have. Because when in the second movie, all the droids are the Trade Federation's like kind of making the big threat with the separatists. The Republic's like, we don't have any armies. We don't have a way to combat this, which is why they get the clones.
Which is the whole point of the clones. I got it. Hey, that makes a lot of sense. So that's not a plot hole anymore. Let's see what we have here. Oh, cool note. I mean, obviously R2-D2 comes from episode 1, but I forgot that he's just on a random ship that Anakin happens to get inside of. And that's cool that that's where his origin story is from. So then they go to Tatooine. They meet Anakin and his slave master. The type of alien he is a Toydarian, but I forget his first name. But Watto. Yeah, Watto. He's a Toydarian. Qui-Gon Jinn tries to Jedi mind trick him to give him the parts he needs or to accept the Imperial credits, and it doesn't work. And Watto's like, "What are you, a Jedi? Those mind tricks don't work on me," or something like that, or they don't work on Toydarians. And so I was wondering if you knew anything about that. Toydarians, they're just immune to the Force.
Don't know the reason.
Okay. Also cool to note is I totally missed this in every time I've watched this movie. Anakin talks about they can't escape as slaves because inside of every slave is a tracking chip, basically. that will like explode if they run away or something like crazy. And so he's like working on building a scanner to find where his is in his body, and he hasn't figured it out yet. But that's also like another reason they can't just free the slaves, right? So plus you have Jabba the Hutt and his gang on the planet. But just a couple more things here. So when they go back to Coruscant to the Jedi Temple, and Qui-Gon's trying to say that Anakin should be trained as a Jedi, and also that Obi-Wan Kenobi is ready to take the trials to become a Jedi Master, they say that Qui-Gon doesn't follow the Force or follow the
Jedi code.
Jedi code exactly. And I know you know this, but I forget, what is the part of the Jedi code he's not following? Because he seems pretty one with the Force to me.
So I think I
Or
don't
did
know
you used
exactly.
to know this and you forgot?
At one point, I had the Jedi code memorized,
My
but I think
goodness. Tell me the first part.
I can't remember it. There's like there's several lines to it. Like there is no chaos. There is only peace. There is no something. It's all just about being peaceful and at one with the Force. And I think they're saying that they don't follow the Jedi code mostly because he's kind of a rebel, where he doesn't like the Jedi Council and that they are more into appearing good than actually being good. And I guess it gets alluded to several times later, especially in the Clone Wars cartoon, is there's 10,000 Jedi that are willing to go to work on behalf of a senator, but there's tons of slaves that need to be freed, and they know about it and do absolutely nothing about it. And I think Qui-Gon sees this and is very critical of the council and very critical of how they do things. And they have like all their rules that aren't really rules, but they just like, oh, we have to do this. We can't train someone too old. We can't do this. And Qui-Gon's like, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm just going to try to follow the Force. It's like
But he's
someone
still
spiritual versus over someone religious, you know?
He's still a Jedi Master though, right?
Yes.
So say what you will about the Phantom Menace. Like, people can hate on it all day. And the whole point of this conversation is to prove that it doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. Because it does get a lot of hate online, you see. But this movie's great. And the main reason this movie's great is the acting performance of Liam Neeson, who is like the main character of the movie. He does really well. And you can just tell that all the actors around him aren't as good. And like, I love the part where he's chasing Darth Maul and like that red barrier shield goes in front of him and like separates him, and then he just gets down and like basically like starts meditating and like becoming one with the Force. Not that it helped him out, but maybe it helped him become a Force ghost afterwards. I don't know. But yeah, I loved Liam Neeson in the movie. Maybe the acting wasn't good, but I still loved him in it. I think the acting was good. What do you think?
To be honest, I think all the acting in these movies was above average. And that might be a hot take for some people because everyone gives Hayden Christensen a hard time for his acting, but really, he acted the part great. It just wasn't a great script. And they also didn't like the character, which is very different than him not doing a good job at what he was asked to do. But
That's a good
anyways,
point.
that's past the Phantom Menace. A lot of people get hung up on the midi-chlorians stuff, and it's such a minor part of the movie. If you don't like that, it's like, okay, you have to listen to them talk about it for like 2 seconds. And to me, I was like, okay, this makes sense. If someone is more powerful with the Force, they have more of these midi-chlorians. It's kind of just like, if someone has more muscles, they're stronger physically.
Yeah.
I don't know why
exactly.
they hated that so much. We talked about Jar Jar Binks already. One of the other complaints is that the plot was too crazy. I think most people from our generation really liked it. If we were kids and able to follow it, I think grown adults should be able to follow it. You know?
Yeah. The midichlorians, that's a good point, because there's like no mention of it in the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And then all of a sudden, Qui-Gon Jinn samples Anakin's blood and gives it to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi reports back, oh, he has a level of 20,000 midichlorians. We've never seen anybody with this amount of midichlorians, not even Master Yoda or Mace Windu, who like supposedly have more than any other Jedi alive. But I can see why people don't like that, because to me it makes it feel like as kids you want to be a Jedi, right? Like everyone wants to be a Jedi until you realize you can't be married, of course, which I couldn't live without my wife Amanda, by the way. Shout out, babe. And then yeah, can you have kids? I think you can obviously have kids, you just can't be married. But
yeah, no attachments. So
no attachments.
I won't be, the Force will be with you, but I won't.
Right. So oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. But the midichlorians, it's like you want to be a Jedi as a kid, And even as adults, you want to be a Jedi. And to think that I can't be as good of a Jedi because my midichlorians aren't as much as his midichlorians, it's like, oh, well, I can't even train to be awesome. Like, I just have to, I'm stuck at this level forever. So I get
Well,
that.
you can. Obi-Wan Kenobi's midichlorians were significantly lower than most. And he, through training and aligning himself with the Force, he became one of the greatest Jedi ever.
Maybe what people don't understand is like you can make those less midichlorians work more for you than other people's midichlorians because you're like training with them. So I like that thought, like going to the gym, and where somebody could be 7 foot tall and have way more potential than you, but you could be 6'3" and outwork them. Anyway, that's the Phantom
Well,
Menace. Got this little guy
the
here.
thing I'm going to bring up, last two things, is three things. Sorry. They say Jar Jar Binks was annoying. This is really quick. I think C-3PO is just as annoying, and he had a much bigger role in 4, 5, and 6. They said that like the dialogue isn't great and it's cringy. Trust me, like the dialogue between Han Solo and Princess Leia in Empire Strikes Back is also cringy.
And making the siblings kiss, like what's that about? That's in the script too. That's a script issue.
Like guys, they're not perfect movies. Like it is cringy, but you can't say that it's significantly cringier than the originals. And then the last thing I'm going to bring up is it gave us one of the best lightsaber fights of all time. The double-sided lightsaber is still epic to this day, 20 some odd years later. And it was way more fast, intense, way more force action in this fight than anything they put out in the originals. And like watching the original lightsaber fights, I'm like, this is boring.
Yeah. How do we not talk about that already? But you're so right. That's why you watch the movie is the scene with Darth Maul at the end with the double lightsaber. Totally.
And it pays off to wait that long for the epic fight scenes. Because even while that fight's going on, what Padme Amidala is doing is pretty epic. The Gungans willing to put their lives on the line just as a distraction. That's also like super heroic and cool. Like, I don't know. Like it was like one of the best battle sequences in all of Star Wars. Is it the best Star Wars movie? No, not by a long shot. In fact, it's probably bottom 3 in my opinion. It still
just shows how good the series is.
Just way. Sorry, I'm not counting the sequels. Sequels are all the bottom 3.
True. You're talking about the 6, the only 6
Original
that we
6.
recognize. Yeah.
Yeah. But
of course.
But still a really great, fun movie that's entertaining and got our generation into Star Wars. Way too much hate for what it is.
And that's our Watchtower review. And then that brings us to our last segment before our summary. This one is called The Weapon of Wisdom. That's right. The Weapon of Wisdom. This segment is sponsored by my sister Mackenzie, who has been painting my background for me for weeks. So I didn't have a good background like Mason does. Look at all those sweet books that he has up there. So Mackenzie said she would paint this bookshelf behind me with our logo on it, and it's awesome. Painted by Ken's on Instagram is sponsoring Weapon of Wisdom this week, and Mason has our Weapon of Wisdom this week, which is basically a quote or an idea that he's gotten from a book that he's read. So take it away, Mason.
Awesome. So I don't even know which book this quote is from, but it's by Hoyd from the Stormlight Archives, or the whole entire Cosmere. He's in everything. By Brandon Sanderson. And I really liked this quote. It says, "A person's tragedy does not define them or cancel all the good in their life." And what I take away from this is we're not defined by our worst moments or even our best moment, is that we're an accumulation of many events, actions, emotions, and tragedies and triumphs. And our lowest experience does not define us or determine what's going to happen to us in our lives. There's always an opportunity to be more optimistic, be more happy, and to look forward to better things ahead. And so if anyone watching this podcast is feeling dark and gloomy, especially in these winter seasons, always be looking for brighter things ahead. And please reach out to the Brotagonists. We'd love to chat with you.
We will have lots of fun segments to come, and hopefully many months and years of a great podcast where we can form a good community with you guys. And hopefully it's interesting enough. And if not, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe we're just not interesting enough.
Yeah,
that's okay. At least we have an outlet now. Exactly. So yeah, it's tough to live states away from a friend. So this is a good way to keep in contact and, do something cool and have a community of you guys that we can share it with. So in summary, let's see, our book battle, our protagonist rating, For Fairy Tale, which we do recommend, we agreed on a 7.9. And that just shows you how many great books we will be bringing to you. A lot more good books. Mythic matchup was kind of, we didn't agree. We couldn't convince one another what to agree on. I thought Drogon would beat Saphira. Mason thinks Saphira would beat Drogon. But we do agree that with their writers, Saphira takes it almost every time.
Keep an eye out for Instagram. We will take a poll in this upcoming week on
That's right.
who our audience thinks would win.
That's right. Let's see. Initially, we're thinking of doing one podcast a week, release on Monday. So that's our plan to start with. So stay tuned. It could change, but for now, we're doing once a week, release on Monday. We will try to be bringing you a new episode every week. This first episode, I'm not sure if it'll be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but we're going to try. It might be a little delayed in getting there, but it's definitely going to be on YouTube, and clips will be coming out on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us at The Brotagonists on Instagram. We have a link tree there where you can find all of our pages. Yeah, let's see. To go on the summary, Watchtower Review, Phantom Menace is not deserving of all the hate it gets. And Weapon of Wisdom was awesome by Mason. Go back and listen to that. So Mason, do you have anything to close with?
No, just this has been super fun. Carter and I aren't really doing this to get millions of followers or anything. This is just a fun thing for us to do as friends, to stay in contact. But we would love to build the community and have as many people participate as possible. So please share us with your friends. Please message us any books that you would like us to review, or movies or TV shows. We'd be happy to chat with you and happy to review those. So everyone have a blessed day.
Insert cool outro music with cool animation graphic.